Someone left a question in the comment section in one of my videos last night. It's a fair question given my recent associations. And what he asked was really broadly, how do I feel or what do I think about MMA? But then he went on to give some of his own opinions about MMA. And so it kind of contextualized the question a little bit better for me, so I understood exactly what he was asking, which is more to the effect of, do I share the idea that MMA is bad for our society, that it's overly violent, and that the people who are involved in MMA are, the arrogant bullies of our society and this kind of a thing. So I'm going to address that question. I did respond in the comment section in writing, in very brief form. I'll elaborate just a little bit here on video, but just to set everything straight and put it out there, I don't have any qualms with MMA. I've never had any problems with MMA. I do have a lot of questions. As a kind of from an anthropological perspective about what's going on with MMA. But from just a straight martial artist perspective, I have no problems with MMA. Even from the anthro perspective, I have no problems with it. I just have questions about the form that it's taken and why it's taken that form. But for me, I grew up with martial arts. I've been in and out of martial arts my whole life. Probably half of my life I've been involved in one martial art or another. It wouldn't seem so by watching my videos, because I'm not really a natural talent or athlete at all. And so I'm constantly, in a way, constantly the white belt. But I have been studying martial arts good portion of my life, maybe half of my life, and the martial arts have changed in the last decade hugely from what I grew up with, and that's largely because of MMA. And for the most part, I see that these changes is very, very good, because what's happening is that martial arts is far less theoretical now. I mean, it presented itself as not being theoretical all along, but now it's even more so, because there's a proving grounds basically in the cage, and we're seeing what firsthand what works and what doesn't. Now, the cage is a limiting environment. It's limiting in the confines, in the structure of the cage itself. It's limited in the rules that are followed in there, but it seems to be that they are they've minimized the rules as much as they can to keep the fighters from being from really killing and maiming each other right on the spot. I mean, there is a little bit of maiming that goes on, but hopefully no killing. There definitely is some long-term damage in terms of brain injury and that kind of thing. But all the same, we always got to keep in mind that what happens in the cage, there's rules for it. There's certain things you can't knee somebody when they're on the ground. Those kind of things. You can't come down 90 degrees with your elbow. I think each association has some of its own rules, but these are just general rules that I've learned from UFC and this kind of a thing. Of course, you don't see biting, you do see eye gouging, but it's on accident, and that's very revealing, because all it takes is a little thumb in the eye. Just one little thumb in the eye, and that eye is fucked up, on accident. And imagine if you're doing it on purpose, repeatedly. But yeah, there's rules to the cage. All the same, the knowledge gain from what has come about through this testing of actual fighters employing different techniques, employing different methods, different strategies, different styles. The knowledge gain that we've got from that in the martial arts is vast. I'm playing catch up myself, and I think I'll be playing catch up for a long time because so much learning has taken place, and it continues to take place. We're not at an end by any means. I mean, it seems like the guys in MMA have kind of settled into a few different sets of tools. I'm thinking like boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Thai boxing. There's a few different like tool sets that everybody seems to have, but all it takes is one guy to go in there with a different tool and throws everybody off, and it can change the whole scene like that if it works. So anyway, lots and lots of learning is coming from that. The people involved are the people involved, and there's a lot of variation in the people involved. One of the things was brought up was whether or not I believe that MMA, the folks involved in MMA are arrogant and bullyish and this kind of thing. Well, yeah, some of them are. Some of them are very arrogant. Some of them are the bullies. Some of them are the jocks. Some of them are people that probably would have been criminals if it wasn't for MMA. A lot of the younger fighters are, of course, very mature. I've watched a lot of the seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, and these young guys coming into potentially getting contracts in the UFC. And so you get a kind of a perspective on the different people the different kind of personalities that are coming in, and there's a wide spectrum. There's nerds that come in, total nerds that come into MMA. There's, and I'm thinking with nerds, I'm thinking of what's her name? I think her name's Roxanne something. She was on the season of Tough with the first women's season. You got these kind of like weird religious fanatical types that might come in. You got these like punk kids that are troublemakers. You got these guys who are ex-football players or some kind of, were in some other sport before and they've shifted over. You've got guys who are martial artists at their core and have always been. You got like a wide spectrum of different people that are involved. You can't just generalize them all as being arrogant, immature bullies and this kind of a thing. But on that note, I think one does need to keep in mind that MMA, the competition fighting, is not the whole of the martial arts, because there is a sense that they're becoming synonymous, and that if you are a martial artist who doesn't compete in MMA, then you're not really testing your skills. How do you know that what you are doing is going to work? Maybe you're not considered by some to be a real martial artist anymore if you're not fighting. But I think what people need to keep in mind is that martial arts is really a lifelong thing. myself, I'm into my 40s now. There's no way I'm gonna ever go fight in a cage. I wouldn't have to begin with, because, like I said, I'm not a natural athlete with a talent for martial arts. If you're gonna go into that cage today, I think you should be, you should be very talented, because you're gonna need it or you're gonna get hurt. So don't mess around with the actual fighting unless you got the talent to do it, and the drive to do it, and the interest in it. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't practice and learn martial arts and have it be a part of your life, because it's beneficial for health, it's beneficial for potential for self-defense, it's beneficial for it teaches you all kinds of life lessons, in a way, things that you can apply in all kinds of aspects of your life, and it gives you a nice social group to get to know. And the way that I look at it, as you age, the martial art becomes a little bit less martial, a little bit more like metaphorical, where the fighting that you're doing is fighting against ill health, imbalance, inflexibility, all these kind of things that can kind of wear you down and take you down over time. The things that bad habits grow in you, or maybe you got an injury, and you need the martial arts as a form of physical rehabilitation to bring you out of an injury or disease, where it's not your fault. My wife, for instance, got a really severe rheumatoid arthritis that put her in a wheelchair and almost had her in a nursing home. And there were predictions that she was going to die very young. She got this in her early 20s, and it was through martial arts, in large part, not in total, but in a good part. It was through martial arts, just the movements themselves used as physical therapy, that really helped bring her out of her arthritis, bring her out of that wheelchair. So I've seen it happen. I know what the martial arts can be used for things other than fighting. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going up to Calgary for a couple of days to take part in a Dan Inosanto seminar. And what is Dan Inosanto? He's like 78 years old or something like this right now. He's an old man, but he's still able to do this stuff, because he's using it as it's part of his lifestyle, and it keeps him healthy. He's going to live a good long life because of the martial arts. So that always needs to be kept in mind. I think in terms of this stuff, it's not all about MMA. MMA has been a brilliant development in the martial arts, because we are learning so much out of it. We're getting so much out of it in terms of practical applications, and I think that has been very beneficial. But that game only goes from young adulthood to maybe mid-30s. I know there's guys who are like 40 who are fighting and stuff, but I don't think it's too smart to fight that long, into those ages. So it's only a little segment, like maybe 20-year segment of a person's life that they're in that window for fighting. But the martial arts can be the whole life. So that needs to be kept in mind. Is the MMA something that's bad for society, that's making society more violent? I think it's an expression of the culture in a way. In a culture that's becoming, a globalized culture. There have been blood sports in cultures all through history, and what's going on in the cage in North American MMA, or the kind of the globalized MMA, is not nearly as violent as some of the kind of blood sports that have gone on in the past in other cultures. But it is a reflection of the culture, and as an anthropologist, then I start asking questions to myself, like, why this kind of expression now? What does it say about our culture? Yeah, it does inform our culture, but at the same time it arose from it. And so, is it making society more violent? Not exactly. There's a feed loop going on, and certainly people are becoming much more informed about how to fight effectively, with their bare hands. But just having that kind of spectator knowledge is a lot different than being able to actually perform with your body. It takes years of training to do what they're seeing on TV, and to be able to do it effectively. So I don't know. Myself, I'm not too concerned about it making society more violent. I think our society is plenty violent. If anything, maybe the MMA could provide an opportunity to deflect some of that real violence. Like, why don't we get some fights going on between some of these political factions in the cage? Let them fight it out there and be competitive instead of sending boys out with guns. I don't know. Just a thought off the tip of my head. I know that kind of thing never happens, but it's fun to think about. Anyway, yeah, that's my perspective on MMA. Basically, is I think it's beneficial. I certainly myself plan to continue learning from the lessons that have been gained from MMA already, and that will continue to be gained as the sport develops.